What's up, everyone? John here, staff software engineer, 10 plus years of experience. I'm the lead maintainer of the open source Latterly.io, an educational and networking platform that can help you learn to code and grow your social and professional networks. Today, we are working on improving the community profiles, public profiles. So as a job seeker, I can create a free Latterly profile and say that I'm open to work, but it doesn't give much other information currently in the production website, as you can see. In the working branch, we have some other features that were added. These are tracked under issue number 374. We're going to enable marking your years of experience. So feedback that I've gotten from recruiters is, hey, let me tell if they're senior or not. What are their years of experience? What are their top skills? So we're going to add top 3 skills. And it dawns on me that we can easily extend this with a relatively minor change to allow people to offer services through Latterly. So think of other mentors or freelancers who can say, yeah, here's are my skills, and by the way, here are also my services offered. So in the current stream, in addition to top 3 skills, we are going to do a full stack change. We're going to make a schema change, purely additive, to add top 3 services. And then we're going to propagate that to the UI so that users can update their settings, and we can see it on the browse here, and it will be searchable. It'll be searchable. So I'll be able to say, okay, Tiana is open to work, and is she junior, mid, senior plus? Is she a Python developer, full stack, front end, back end? And is she open to networking for reasons like peer interviews, mock interviews, resume review? Or does she even offer freelancing services? If I'm a small business with a restaurant, could I ask her to build me a website? With that context, let's dive in. I have localhost up and running, so now I'll shift from the public site to the localhost. Close out a couple of these tabs. And we will immediately go to the schema. Control P, Latterly Prisma. Here's the schema file. And I can see 3 skills, or let's see, maybe it's like top skills, something like that. Profile, top networking reasons, top skills. And here I want to say profile, top services. Services offered. I think services make sense. Let me know if you have a preference, chat. I'll go with that. Let me kill the server. Now I can npx prisma generate to update my types locally. Npx prisma db push to update my remote database. In Prisma version 6, recently upgraded to version 6, it tells me that database is now in sync. There were no conflicts, no problems. By the way, Latterly is at 399 users. I checked earlier today. Would love you to sign up for free and be member number 100. Feel free to DM me. I'll give you a public social shout out across social media if you're interested. Optional, like not required. If you want to be private, totally understandable. The entire profile, all of this data is private by default. So you can update your settings, and you'll need to explicitly enable a public profile. Should never need to worry about data leaking. All right, so this is a minor commit. Let's do feat and just name the new variable. That takes care of the database. npm run dev, we'll get localhost back up. From database, we want to picture an onion model and move out to the service layer in the back end, and then the UI changes will be last. Joe Guy, do you think you could add RAM if you tried on a laptop? Maybe. What would be the point of that? You can add RAM without a laptop as well. If you have it in cloud, it's actually easier than swapping out physical RAM. You can just go to your AWS and update RAM allocated if you need to. All right. Welcome in. Thanks for being here, by the way. Hope you'll consider tapping the video, give it some likes so the algorithm will send it around. Thank you so much. So now let's go look at the settings. So I'll just show you what we're doing. So as a user, I'm going to go over to my account. I'm going to go to my settings. This will be the UI we need to update later, this form, but we're not ready for that yet. Before we update the form in the UI, we need to update the backend service that this form calls. Does that make sense? Do you think hardware is easier than programming? No, personally I don't. And the job market is also much worse. So, quick aside, this will be less than 2 minutes. Hardware engineer. Not hardware, hardware engineer. In the whole United States, about 36K jobs. Software engineer, over 50K jobs. So they're both going to work. You can get a job either way, but software engineer is like 50% better. Not designing, just knowing about it and assembling it. If you're passionate about it, it's going to be easy for you. If you're not passionate about it, then it becomes work, and then it's going to be more work. So where do your interests lie? If you're really like into hardware, go for it. Go for it. My advice is generally centered around the job search. That's the main pain point that my users tell me that they want dealt with. And so from a job search perspective, I'm not going to recommend hardware. But if it's something you're passionate about, it can work. So by all means, go for it. Okay, so I'm going to look for, we're already here. We're here in the user router, the get settings function. And I want to look at these schemas. And I want to enable top skills, and I want to add, let's see if cursor can figure it out, top services. There we go. Tab it to accept it. It's a nullable string, that's right. Now this will need to be converted into a list by the time it hits the database. So this is the get. We will get the services that you offer. And there's a different schema for updating. User settings schema. And in fact, I can name that more specifically. Oh, it's already called update settings schema as opposed to user get settings schema. Those are slightly inconsistently named. So I'll call this the update user settings schema, and I'll call this the get user setting, just for consistency. Minor thing here, but it makes it easier for me, so let's do it. We can see we have some linter errors now because other people are using the legacy name. Update. That's better. I can just click and tab. Cursor's hooking me up. Thank you, cursor. All right, these are all fixed. One remaining. The one remaining is here. So we'll need to add a new row to this object. And you can see it's already A, B, C, D, and it even put it in the alphabetical place. That's awesome. I'll save this. So the feature here, this is the service later. We're using TRPC. This is on the back end in TypeScript. And the feature here is update settings schema. Really, it's more than schema. It's a service update, but I think that is fine for a commit message. So who's calling this thing? Now let's go over to the UI. Oh, profile. Oh, let's see. We want to, yeah. Cursor is helping me out here. Top networking reasons. Top skills. Anything else? We'll skip on the profile picture for now. Let's sort these alphabetically. So this is when we get paginated users. That's going to help us good. That's going to help us on the browsing the community page. So this is another feature, many small commits. We love it. So the feature here is get more user properties. Don't need to overthink these commit messages. An LLM can help you create the message if you're like, I really don't know what to say here. Just be fast, time box it, don't overthink it. Is this Visual Studio Code? No, it's not. It's Cursor, which is a fork of VS Code that includes this supercharged tab autocomplete, the composer, and more. If you find yourself doing SQL queries on the command line, you can see it's light text. It might be hard to read. It says Control K to generate a command. So you can actually use the AI on your terminal in Cursor. 3 really powerful features, much more, but that alone is worth the money, I think. In 2025, I recommend AI first development. I recommend that you're using a tool like a Cursor or a ChatGPT Premium. Use the premium models, not the free one. Big difference. Sonnet is great. Any of these, what are they called? Just industry leading models. Okay. So who's calling this thing? Now we want to go to Pages, Settings, and we can see the Settings form. That's where we want to go. We want to go to the Settings form. AI project ideas. Here's 5, and I've talked about this in a previous stream, but let's see if I can remember them. 1 is going to be, so you should be making a blog anyway. This is the laterally standard curriculum. Without AI, just make a blog. And the AI feature that you can add is AI search, natural language search, so that people can find articles that are related to whatever they're searching for. Not a keyword search, a natural language search, which an LLM enables. 2 will be a recommendation system, so you can recommend what is the next article that this user is likely to want to read, that they're going to spend more watch time, they're going to like it, something like that. 3 is you can do an exploratory data analysis. So you can just take your Google Analytics and see how your users are behaving, and you can extract insights. That's more data analysis, less AI. And then another that's going to be on the data analysis side is you can do a synthetic EDA, a synthetic exploratory data analysis, where you generate data. So it doesn't need to be your real Google Analytics. It can just be some fictional data set, but still you can analyze it, put it on GitHub and show, hey, I know how to do data analysis. And then number 5, I remembered all 5 of them. It looks like great. Number 5 is data visualization. You can do this on the front end. As a front end developer, I can use a library like D3.js. In the Python world, I can use a tool like Seaborn or Matplotlib. Adding visualization to your data analysis really empowers the user, who may not be technical, to understand what's going on. It's really visually impressive, and you can get a lot of credibility in your portfolio by adding some lightweight visuals. Sick, thanks, very welcome, great question. Great question, thanks for being here. If you're enjoying the video so far, I hope you'll like it. That'll help the algorithm send the video around. We got Kick, welcome in Kick. Looking forward to being affiliated with you. Maybe, I don't know you, but yeah, if you have something interesting, send it my way. Okay, so we are looking at the form, right? And the schema is already flowing through because the schema is, oh, we're in the Blitz app. This is the wrong pace. Laterally IO settings form. This is the Blitz app. Laterally IO settings. I don't know why that's showing up in the fuzzy typing. Oh, I guess the I and the O are there, huh? Okay. I want to go to the laterally side. This is a mono repo with 2 similar projects, but this is the one that I want. Thoughts on the job market? It's actually really good now. In 2025, it's really good. In 2024, it was trash, of course. You want to look at true up data, true up / jobs. Somehow it knows that I'm a human. I don't know how it figured that out. You look over here, you can see hundreds of thousands of jobs. We can look at the summary statistics. So it crashed, but we're above peak now, 31% up from the bottom. And you can see it's slow and gradual, but sustainable uptrend. Slow, gradual, sustainable uptrend. And then you can look at the layoffs. Layoffs are down. If you just watch the news, if you're just stuck on Reddit or a negative semantic echo chamber, you'll think that this is a big deal, but it's a drop in the bucket. It's a drop in the bucket. Layoffs are down. And the other thing that I hear is, well, there's jobs, but they're not junior friendly. Well, let's look at levels of seniority on this true up data. Entry and mid-level is larger than all other categories combined. So the mistake that I see job seekers make is they're just searching for, by title, junior software engineer, junior programmer, junior React developer. Don't do that. As an entry-level person, you can still look at titles of jobs that say just software engineer. If you have a portfolio with 3, 4, 5 projects in it, you have developed software. You are a proven software developer. You're not an intern. You're not like, you don't need to self-identify as entry level. You can apply to those, but identify as a full-blown software developer. Big, big tip. I graduate in May with a master's in software engineering. Any advice? You should be social networking now and creating content to grow your brand awareness preemptively. That'll give you a big leg up, big head start on others. And also, I hope you're committing to GitHub already. So you can show on your resume, add the link to your GitHub, and show proof points. It's indisputable proof. You have the third-party objective GitHub proof. I've been doing coding. And advocate for yourself strongly that this counts as experience. Your open source development experience counts. Those would be some major tips. Another tip is that you can consider working with a third-party agency recruiter like a Tech Systems and Apex Systems and so on. Sometimes they will have a test that they might give you. You can pass this and they can use that as another basis for credibility to help you get a job. And they have pre-existing networks, so there's a leg up there as well. I hope you'll follow the page. I have many, many more tips, but those are just some top of mind. And let's get back to the code. By the way, you can sign up at Laterally for free. I mentioned this earlier, but I'll mention it again. Looks like we have more viewers. Thanks for being here. I hope you'll tap the like button and send the video around so more people can learn. If you sign up at Laterally.io, link is in the bio, you can sign up for free. Join the Discord. There's hundreds of engineers there. Jumpstart your networking. And in addition, you can add exactly what we're doing today. You can create a free profile and say that you're open to work. Recruiters are reaching out to me all the time. I'm a staff software engineer, and I just get so many recruiters that I'm not interested, but I can say, hey, go take a look at this list of people who are open to work. So that's another tip there. How much knowledge does one need to know before going into the first software role? What you should do is the following. Build 3 projects and start applying. By the time you've built that third project and published it to GitHub and people can go look at it, you know a sufficient amount to start applying. This idea of mastery, that you need to master HTML. No, you don't. Master CSS. No, you don't. You don't need to memorize all the CSS keywords. What you do is you start applying, you get to the interview, you're going to flop your first, second, probably third interview. That's okay. Identify those gaps, backfill them on a just-in-time, as-needed basis. That's the most efficient use of your time. Instead of trying to master all of these skills, JavaScript, React, TypeScript, the list goes on, you can spend years doing that and you still won't have mastered it. I don't care if you took a course in all of those. I can give you a quiz. If I give you 100 questions, you're not going to get 100 answers right. And that's not a necessary bar. So another mistake, another pitfall that I see is people blocking themselves. And there is this imposter syndrome anxiety problem. I get it. Like, I've had anxiety. I know. The solution is don't expect to be perfect. There's a large job market, hundreds of thousands of jobs. You just need to beat the bottom 10% and you're going to be able to get a job. Are you going to get that $600,000 a year FANG job? Probably not. So lower the bar. The typical starting salary that you should be looking for is around $70,000. If you can beat that, great. But I'm confident that in a range of like 6 months, most people can hit that bar. Bro is dropping gems. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You have to beat AI now. No, you don't. You have to use AI now. In 2025, we're doing AI first development. That means you know how to prompt. You know how to use ChatGPT. This is not rocket science. If you're in college, I know you're using ChatGPT. I'm not going to tell your professor, don't worry about it. Between me and you, use ChatGPT, okay? And then use a tool like Cursor, which you can see I'm using today. So like, I practice what I preach, people. I was laid off last year. I got a job offer in 1 month. And that's not because of magic. That's because there are particular practices in terms of interview preparation, job search skills, networking, and more that will help you crush the job market. And it's easier today than it was last year. What's up, big dog? Let me get a job, big dog. What's up, big dog? Brittany says, thanks for the encouragement. Brittany, thank you for being here. And thank you for your encouragement. Just dropping a comment that's a nicety like that as a content creator and a teacher, that's really positive for me. So thank you as well. Sama, you can do it. I mean, I bet you got the job on lock already, but if you really want help, reach out to me. You know where to find me. Check out the bio. How much do devs use AI on a day-to-day? I heard that most companies have internal tools. Both, that's correct. Most companies have at least one AI tool that a developer can access. If they don't, that's a way that you can advocate in the company to be a leader in AI adoption. You can actually lead that. But most companies already have it. And how much do they use it day to day? It varies by person, right? Like, if it helps you, use it. If you don't help, if it doesn't help you, if it's like you're working on something that's too complicated and the AI doesn't understand it, you can just avoid it. I would say I am coding 80% of the time thereabout. And among that coding time, how often am I using a language model? It's got to be half the time. It's got to be half of my around, I don't know, give or take 10%, right? It's around half the time I'm going to use AI in the completion of some user story. I don't use AI, and none of the seniors I know don't use AI tools. Do you know how Booleans work? Because if you say none of the seniors I know don't use AI tools, what you're saying is that all of the seniors you know use AI tools. Yeah, I mean, I think that's wrong. I think this is hilarious. I always note that the AI critics tend to be anons that have like some obscure username and a profile picture that looks like a cartoon. Show me a real senior. Show me a real senior. I'll show you someone that uses AI at least some of the time. What's your advice for getting a job in this market? Been looking for 6 months. Only had 2 interviews. My first bit of advice for you is stop using the word only. 2 interviews is like a start, right? There's so many tips I can get into here, y'all. Sign up for Latterly. There's a checklist. It walks you through step by step. That's what we're here for. I don't really like to repeat everything that's on the checklist every time. But basically, in terms of job search best practices, you want to make a spreadsheet. You want to have the roles that you've applied to. Every role, every job post URL, you should have a social contact at that company. And so I can just tell you right now, am I saying that right? Hope I'm saying that right. I'm sure that if you've been trying for 6 months and gotten 2 interviews, the problem is a lack of volume and a lack of social networking. Another one of the pitfalls that I see is that programmers think, hey, I've finally gotten good at programming. They feel really good. I'm finally confident I can pass a coding interview. And they totally neglect the soft skills, the communication skills, the networking skills. So they have all of this tech expertise and they think a job is going to fall into their lap. That's not how it works, bro. Totally different skill set, and you need to develop both. And that will be a big unlock for you. Join the Discord. You can sign up for free. I'm happy to give you one-on-one tailored advice. So reach out to me, but I'll pause there. Definitely will be returning. Appreciate your advice. Thank you for being here. Every job I apply to has 100 applicants already. Here's a quick tip. You can just look at the LinkedIn latest posts. Okay? The jobs that were posted in the last hour don't have 100 applicants. So this smells, in the programming world, we talk about smells. A smell is an indicator. It doesn't prove anything. It just helps me suspect a root cause. The truth is I need to know much more about you to give a really detailed plan that works for you specifically. Most of the advice I'm giving here is general, but I'll say it smells to me like you might be applying to old stale jobs, basically. So yeah, that's a bad move. If you're social networking, I don't care how many people clicked the link. The social networking is a cheat code. It's proven by data. I'm happy to give you the data if you want. It's on the Latterly blog already. So again, social networking will help you bypass that 100 plus applicant problem. And it's a real problem. Like if you get in queue after 100 people, you're already cooked, right? So the way you do that is you either go social networking or you go for recency. And they don't have 100 plus already, guarantee you. Check out how to view the LinkedIn latest job posts. Great questions, chat. Really good stuff. Hey, dog, I like the energy you're putting in. Welcome, Kick. Welcome, Boosty. I like the energy you're putting into your streaming journey. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here on Kick. All right, so let's get back into some code, eh? Open source, feel free to check out the open issues. There's some beginner-friendly issues if you want to do some Some open source contribution, that's another way to get a lot of exposure for you. If you pull requests laterally, even if I don't merge your pull request, I'm giving you a shout out to tens of thousands of people that follow me. So that's another good way to get some exposure for yourself. And there's some beginner friendly issues over there. What I'm working on currently is a bit more complex, but that's okay. That's why I'm the one working on it. So let's dive in, let's reorient. We're here on localhost, looking at the settings form. All right, here is the settings form. And what do I notice? I notice that my new fields are not available. Okay, so there's a check. So I need to actually remember what are my new fields. One that exists already will be the GitHub URI. Okay, so here's a GitHub URI. And I need to add in some new fields. I don't want to use a labeled text field. I want to use an autocomplete. Okay. And then does this have a drop down? I might need to make a whole new component here. Yeah, so my current autocomplete doesn't have a drop down and it doesn't have chips. Let's exclude JSON files. So I don't have a chip component anywhere in my app. So I think I need to add chips. Great, and this will be a use case for Cursor. Here I'm in agent mode. I'm going to start a new fresh session with the Cursor Composer. I'm using Claude Sonnet behind the scenes. And what do I want to do? I want to inform it about the autocomplete field, and I want to inform it about the text field, and I want to inform it about the setting form. Okay, so I'm giving Cursor some context to start with here, and let me add visually on the screen, where do I want it? Public profile. It will be a part of the public profile. Let's do this above country of residence. I think it's going to be more important than that. Country of residence will be the country dropdown. Country dropdown. Okay, so I'll add it here. What do I want to add here? You can say labeled text field. This is going to be the profile top services. So we can just look at this update. Okay, so here's top services. The problem is I want this to be, when I say foo, comma, bar, I want that to turn into a list of chip components. This is the design name. You don't need to memorize these names. If you go over to ChatGPT, you can upload a screenshot and say, hey, like, what's the terminology for this component? What's the design name for this kind of component? Basically, what we're trying to do are these things. You see where it says Peyton Smith? That's a chip. That's a chip. Fortunately, Cursor already knows about this stuff. So I'm going to prepare this context, and I'm going to say, create a new labeled chip collection component, which is placed as a sibling to the existing labeled text field component. Then I will say, what do I want it to really highlight? I want it to notice that we're using React form, final form. Notice the libraries we are using, particularly React final form. And I'll also give it a reference to my package.json file, just so it knows all of the libraries that we're using. Package.json will include the dependency information. I will say, currently, profile top services uses a labeled text field in settings form .tsx, but I would like a new labeled chip collection that allows a user to enter a list of strings. I would like enter and tab support. I would like enter, blur, and tab support. Enter, blur, and tab support. To change the current, let's say to change the latest string into a chip. Good. This doesn't teach anyone how to code. Cool. Bro couldn't figure out how to exit Vem. Yeah, hilarious. Hey chat, feel free to hang around for my other lives. I just got done doing a elite code series, so I do go back and forth between soft skills, interview prep material like LeetCode, code, and then open source contribution, which is what we're currently doing. So maybe you do learn something here, maybe you don't, but the key of this current stream is actually a building stream, not a teaching stream. I know we went on some tangents and I taught some stuff, but that's not the central point of this stream. Is that ChatGPT or Copilot? This is Cursor Composer. You can see the name in the upper right. This is Cursor's Composer, which is a different tool. Behind the scenes, it's using Claude Sonnet 3.5. Is Cursor IDE free? They do have a free trial, but I will recommend you use the paid option. You get some pretty severe limitations with the trial. Jonathan, thank you for the follow. If you think the video is interesting so far, I hope you'll give the video some likes so the algorithm will send it around. Do you think AI will replace software engineers? No. I think software engineers will increasingly use AI and they will become more productive, and this will actually increase demand for software engineers. None of these predictions are really that surprising. If you're familiar with the state of the industry, this is already what's happening. We've already seen increases in AI usage, and with that, an increase in job post count. So the social narrative that as AI adoption increases, the job post count is going down, this is outdated information. There was a drop last year, and it's been moving up since that drop began correcting. Around the time of the Federal Reserve rate cut, around that time. All right, so let's see what it's done. So I'll come over here to the diff. It didn't actually create the physical file. I see the physical file is not created for labeled, what did I call this thing? Let's make sure that the terminology is consistent. Should I create the file? Yes, you'll need to create it. And then it goes on and creates it. So the models do get confused, y'all. This is another example of why AI is not replacing us. We need to understand how to work with the AI and patch it and do tasks in some cases that the AI is incapable of doing. Using questions is actually a really good prompt strategy. So notice here that I didn't ask, should I create it, because I don't know how to create it. I totally could have done that. But what's going to work best for the AI tool? I noticed the file wasn't created. Let me create it first. And it's going to get confused again here because it's going back and forth between PowerShell and Git Bash. I'm on a Windows machine. This problem is less frequent on Mac because the native terminal of Mac is the Linux terminal, which is the one that Cursor expects. So I'm going to go ahead and create the file myself. So here's the labeled autocomplete under the components folder. Now I'll make labeled chip collection.tsx. Help our little AI friend out a little bit. I think I named it correctly. Let me double check the naming. Labeled chip collection. Labeled chip collection. Looks good. I created the file. Please proceed to update the file content. And I'll give it a reference to this file location. Thank you for the follow. All right, we've got the text populating. That's a green flag. Let's accept it. And I'll say continue to update the labeled text field. And I'll also give it the schema information. I will say notice that this form matches the update setting schema. And then I'll also bring in the Prisma schema here. Are we doing top services or top skills now? I've forgotten. Let me double check. Yeah, top services. We ultimately want to update profile top services. Feel free to alter the form and schema to accommodate the chips being sent to the server and saved as a list of strings. I think that's pretty good. Lipes, thank you for the follow. Mystifier, thank you for the follow. Thank you so much. Over 150 likes. Way to go, team. Give it some more. Let's see if we can get 300 likes. Let's see if we can get 300 likes, and that will help the algorithm send the video around so more viewers will trickle in as those likes go up. Thank you for helping the stream out here. Okay, so let's accept these changes. I'll go over here and review, and I'm going to start staging things. I can go ahead and commit labeled chip collection. Chip collection component. Okay, it added profile top services. Works for me. That looks good. I'll stage the schema change here. Do you think AI will replace software engineer? Again, another person asking the same question. This was just asked. No, I don't. In 2025, we should learn how to use AI. AI is a tool. The cotton gin did not replace the cotton industry. It just changed the way that people made shirts. Same with AI. You can see I'm doing things that I wouldn't have been doing 2 years ago. That's because it makes me more productive. And I earn more now than I did 2 years ago. And that's related to the fact that I am more productive. Okay, let's look at what it did to the settings form. Whoa, it rewrote the whole thing. A lot of this is formatting updates. Let's format. Okay, most of this is changing double quotes to single quotes. I'm fine with that. I think my formatter would have done that anyway. So here I notice I'm going to tell the LLM, I notice settings form is still using a text field for profile top services. I would like it to use the new chip component. Are you using Copilot? Kind of. You could call this a Copilot in the general generic sense. This is not technically the GitHub Copilot. This is the Cursor Composer, technically. But in the general sense, a Copilot is any AI tool that helps you with some task. So in that general sense, Cursor Composer acts as a Copilot, but it's not the GitHub Copilot. Does that make sense? Brittany, thank you for the follow. Is this how you would typically work at your job specifically, relying on AI more for the stream? This is how I would work at my job. Yes. So we have been able to get a pilot, that is a enterprise trial period for Composer at my company. We'll see if they officially make it, if they officially choose it or not. I would definitely support it. But there are other tools like it, and certainly I would be using some tool, whether it's this or not. Is that VS Code's AI thing? Cursor Composer, yes, is a fork of VS Code. That's right. And if I didn't have access to Cursor, I would use VS Code probably. There are some other tools. There's Augment, more of a niche tool. So there's some other options. JetBrains is fine. I think the AI support in JetBrains is second best. But second best is better than nothing, right? Actually, we already updated the settings form, it says. So here is the settings form. Let me look at profile top services over here. Nope, it's still using it. So the model is being confused again. We're seeing multiple instances of model confusion. So I've told it once, but it's confused. So how do I get it into a good state? I will say review. I'm going to ask it to review the file. Review the current state of settings form. What component is used to control the data for profile top services? So now that I'm asking it a question, it's going to go check. Let me check the current state. You can see it's reading the file, and it's going to realize that it was wrong. And you see it says, I apologize for my confusion. This is an example of how we need to, it's a two-way street. The AI doesn't just magically build stuff. I don't know who is even saying that. Maybe some people in Congress, the same people that think that TikTok can hack your Wi-Fi. Like, these are the kind of people who are saying that AI is going to take your jobs. The truth is that it's a tool that we need to work with. Okay, so we've got that update. Now let's see how it works. I'll go ahead and stage it. We'll go ahead and commit this. Even if there's a problem, I want to be able to roll back to this checkpoint and then make changes as needed. That's exactly what source control is for. So we're creating a checkpoint every time we commit. And this feature will be in settings form. I'll say profile top services in settings form. We'll go ahead and push that up. And I don't necessarily expect it to work on the first pass, but we want to keep our commits small so that I don't have like a bunch of commits. And then if I run into an issue, I have trouble debugging and troubleshooting where's the root cause of the problem. By making many small commits, I'm able to roll back and use an elimination-based approach to say, oh, here's the state it was in. I made this change. This error popped up. So that delta of code is the root cause. That's an elimination-based troubleshooting strategy. That's a troubleshooting strategy we would use with or without AI. Okay, so here we are. Top services. What's the service I offer? I'll say, I don't know, career advice. Boom, there's a chip. What else can I do? Resume review. Tab worked. Enter and tab both worked. Let's try blur. And I'll say freelancing. And then let me blur, that is click outside of the field. And it worked on all counts. It worked on all counts. So the labeled chip collection component is working as expected. The next question is going to be, will it send to the server and communicate with the server as expected? Okay, so let's go try that out. I'll just submit the form. And I got an error. I got an error. Update failed. Here's the error. I'll take a screen grab of this. I'll copy that. Before I talk to the language model, I want to do a cursory search on my own and try to guess what the root cause might be. And then the composer will act as a peer and a rubber duck to validate or invalidate my suspicion. But I don't want to send the AI off on its own and be like, hey, fix the thing. That turns into a snowball of error. What I want to do is I want to keep the language model context as pristine as possible, correct it when needed, and then use it when useful. But I can't correct it if needed if I don't have my own, at least a theory on what the root cause problem is. And that theory might be wrong, but before I go to cursor, I'm going to take the error and I'm going to do my own cursory search on what the issue is. So where does this data go? It has a label, it has a name. The name should be bound to some local state. We're using React here. And we're using final form in particular. Okay, so here is the on submit. So I want to go look at this on submit and I can do some console logging. So this is passed in from a higher order, so I will look for where the settings form is used. Lots of results. I can reduce them by looking for the left angle bracket literal. Many fewer results. Blitz app, don't need it, don't need it. So there's only one location. Isn't that convenient? And it's here in the settings form wrapper. It makes sense that the settings form is in the settings form wrapper. Matches intuition. And we can already see, just as I was thinking, well, let's make sure notice that when we submitted the form, we got an error. We should already think maybe it's that on submit function creating some problem. And before I even go to ChatGPT or Composer, I can already see handle submit has a lint error. So let's investigate this further. And the type is off and everything matches at this point. So we have a strong theory already. And to spell it out, the problem is the form is keeping the state, but it is not sending that data to the server because it is not included in these sanitized values. So we haven't proven yet, but we have a good theory of the root cause, which is that we need to update this handle submit. And this will be a little bit trickier because I can't just copy, here's the existing pattern, right? Oh, okay. What I was going to say is I'm not sure whether profile top services is currently a list of strings or is it currently a CSV single string? And would I need to parse it and cast it to array? Looks like the answer is no. Cursor already took care of that for me. So it's in the right data type. Let me also make sure that these remain sorted in order. So let's see, sort lines ascending. Okay, so it's in the right data type, but the issue persists. Why? I think it's this update settings schema right here. So let's look at this. And this is calling the server mutation with TRPC. So now we're back on the back end again. This is full stack development, folks. We're going to have to toggle between front end and back end. And so what I see is that the update user settings schema says that my top skills are right here. But where are the services? Profile top services. I don't see it included. Do you? I don't see it included. A, B, C, D, E, and I guess services would go before skills in alphabetical order, wouldn't it? Okay, so now we have the Zod type for an optional string array, which is exactly what I want. It's exactly what I want. Good. So I could look further. Where is this being used? It's used inside that get. Okay, and then it's also used independently in the update, and this is the part that's going to call to the database. So at this point, and the list of properties is too long, so the tooltip just gives the ellipsis. But at this point, I'm expecting that data is included. If it's not, I'll come back here and add some console logs. I could log it now, but I think that'd be overkill. I think that the faster path forward is just to test this. So resume review, personal coaching, group coaching. Okay, let's try to submit that. And it expected a number for profile highest degree. Okay, so there's other fields that are missing, but this field was validated at this point. All right, so years of experience should be optional. It should be optional. Let's submit it again. It expects a number. And for years of experience, expected a number, received null. Years of experience. Here's the years of experience. You can see it's an optional number, but it got a null. It got a null, and it was mad about getting a null. So should we make it optional or nullable? Let's try nullable. I think either should work. I'll put a comment here. I'll put a comment here, but I will currently make it nullable. And the change that I'm expecting from a functional perspective is that I just don't want to get a validation error on that property. I might get some error on some other property. Profile highest degree, okay. Let's just make it nullable, highest degree. And then networking reasons, I guess these don't need to be optional. They can just be an empty list. So we don't need to make it either on these three array-like properties. That is networking reasons, services, and skills. So I might need to go add those on the UI. Do I want to make it optional on the front end or on the back end? We'll make it nullable in all these cases, and the back end will use an empty list if nothing is available. Yep, I think that's fine. I think that's fine. Okay, so let's see. Updated successfully. Now on off screen, I'm going to go look. I'm not going to bring this on the screen, but I'm going to look in the database itself on a different screen to make sure I was updated correctly. By the way, while I'm looking at the database chat, I'm noticing that I did not get a user sign up. So I still have 399 registered users on Latterly. You can sign up for free if you're number 400. I'm happy to give you a social media shout out. Free brand awareness for you. If you're interested, not required, of course. You can sign up for free. Link is in the bio. I thought optional can take a null in some contexts. That's the tricky bit. In some contexts. Yeah. In some contexts it can, in some it can't. Because JavaScript has this fun thing called undefined. Undefined is technically different than a null in JavaScript. So if you're familiar with like Python, that will be different. In Python, you just have the none object, which represents both cases. In JavaScript, we have this extra bonus of undefined. Okay, so I'm looking at my user. Well, the other way I can do this is just like refresh my screen and see if it persists, right? And which email am I logged in with? ID 416, okay? We just got user number 400. Thanks, chat, whoever that was. Thank you so much. Feel free to DM me if you'd like a shout out. Happy to give you a shout out, not required. Okay, so here's user 416. Profile top networking reasons, top skills, and services is empty. Services is empty. Okay. So it's not updating in the database. Oh, well, here also it's empty, isn't it? Top services, competitive, hot dog, eating. Look at that. It says updated successfully and immediately purges. I'll refresh my database. We're looking for top services. On 416. And it is still nullish. It is still nullish. Okay, so what this indicates to me is that communicating to the service layer is working, but in the service layer, saving to the database is saving an empty value. So let's go troubleshoot this. So I have profile top services and top skills. Let's go ahead and do both of these while we're at it, because I'm going to get confused thinking between them either way. So here's profile top services. Okay, I think this is good. We'll do all of them. So for networking reasons, default array like, and then years of experience will default to null. Good. Good. Let's go ahead and update all of these. Looking at the form values from update setting schema. Top services, top skills. Good. Default to an empty list of string and default to null for years of experience. This is all good. Okay, so now all of the new fields should be passed. And here is the backend schema. Let me try one more time just to make sure that it's still working. Cook for you. Cook for you. Updated successfully. Okay, again, we're getting the no type errors. It's going off to the server. And I'm tempted to save where we're at. Yeah, I'm going to save where we're at. This is still complaining. Let's fix this, and then we'll create a checkpoint there. Reading through these is such a pain point. This is one of the benefits of using Cursor. I'm going to ask Cursor to tell me what the issue here is. Or can I just read an expanded form of this cursor? What is that 15 more? I want to know. Oh, profile years of experience. Do I have it nullable? That could be the issue. It is nullable. It is nullable. Let me go ahead and make this a little more explicit. Yeah. This is where the delta is coming from. I think this is where the delta is coming from. So I'll be a little more explicit and bring this type in literally. Say import from a different location. This is going to come from the user router. And I may not be able to do this. Let's see. Let me explicitly say that this is a type. So typically, we're in a client component, use client. Typically, you cannot import server components into the client, but it might let me get away with it because it's a type in this case. Update refers to a value, but it's being used as a type here. Ah, interesting, because it's a Zod object, yeah. let's use it as a Zod object. Maybe I can do that. Maybe I can do that. So let's try to parse this thing. And I'm getting a FS resolution error, which is probably because I'm trying to use the server component in the UI. So the type is happy, but the server is not happy. Let me try to restart the server. If the issue persists, a workaround will be to move it out of the router into a utility file that both the client and the server use. That would be another option. I'm him. Thank you for the follow. Okay, so we're still getting that error. All right. So let me take this out of the router completely. And I'll take this one as well. I can take a bunch of these types, actually. Okay. I have a constants file, and I will make a schemas file. Okay. Let's make sure that I export the constant tiers order. So this is effectively a utility file now. Some of these imports I can now remove. Make sure I import all the things. Okay, and this makes more transparent the issue. So this is the issue. String or null is not assignable. Yeah, it's the null undefined casting issue. We can get to that in a moment, but first I want to make sure that the UI is able to import this schemas file. So here, we import from schemas. The import is working. Sort my imports. And do I still get the FS issue? No, I see a form. So we're able to import. And now that I'm parsing Zod, I'm guaranteed to get that type right here. And it's guaranteed to comply with the mutation by the time it parses. By the time it parses. This issue is all that remains. So I can comment this. I'll come back and fix that later, but I think it's going to be easier to go for years of experience, which is just a nullable number. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is change an existing field so that I can submit a null years of experience and ensure that succeeds. So I'll change an existing field. The maintainer. John the Latterly maintainer. Let's call it site maintainer just to have a shorter name. Updated successfully. It says, let me refresh the page. Site maintainer data persisted. So it's looking good. I want to stage these. Yeah, we have a committable checkpoint. This means that the Zod parse in the UI is working. So the feature here is share Zod between UI and BE. Push that up to the server. And now I want to uncomment these, but I want to tackle them one at a time. Okay, so profile, which one is the one that I actually have in the form? You see that I can do a lot of the work without the composer at all, right? So we use the composer when we need to or when it's advantageous. I don't like the idea of using it by default. So here's the chip collection. It is top services. And I guess we're not including that at all down here, are we? Profile top services. Okay, and using that or empty list works. And it also works for me. So if the services would be null, instead it's an empty list. Makes perfect sense. Potato says, interesting. What's up, Potato? Dig the username. Is this a MERN stack React Node TypeScript? It is Next.js. And it is React Node TypeScript, but we're not using MERN. We're using Supabase. So that's Postgres, that's SQL. Prisma for the ORM. Good question. Thanks for being here. How do I say this? Ronanyi, did I say that correctly? Thanks for being here. Good question. This is not the MERN stack. And we are using Node, but we're not using Node directly. We are using Next.js, which runs on Node. Tones411 says, now that Copilot for VS Code supports Sonnet, what is the main reason to use Cursor instead? All the reasons you would use Cursor. They still all exist. The composer, the fact that you can access Sonnet is not the same as using the composer. The composer agent in Cursor does many more things. It can run its own terminal. It can do a lot of other things. And you can switch between. I don't like to be bound to just Sonnet, right? I like to be able to switch between or even bring my own model if I want to. So that's the composer. The other reason you would use it is Control-K in the terminal. And then the third is the tab autocomplete, which is way better than GitHub Copilot's tab autocomplete. So it can actually predict where you would scroll to. And you can tab once and it will scroll you there and fix the code, for instance. Good questions. Okay. Let's add years of experience. So here's the setting form. Well, it's going to predict all this stuff. Okay, fine. We'll go for all of it. So here, I want to make sure these are in alphabetical order. A, B, C, D, E. So services before skills. All right, good. This is a labeled text field, but I actually want a labeled number field. Is that a thing? It's not a thing. What about labeled text field type number? Yeah. So it's still a type field. It's still a text field. The user will enter text, but it has type of number. It will parse into a number on the data side. So this is all looking as I expect. Let's inspect the UI. Years of experience, let's say 11. And you see I get that. I can arrow up and down. It truly is a HTML number field. Expected number received string, okay? I wonder if I'm using type number anywhere else. So I'm going to use a reference code pattern. I'm not using type number anywhere else. So I think that the labeled text field implementation for number is incomplete, just because it's not battle tested. I haven't needed to use it before. So we can look through this labeled text field bit here. Yeah, see, it's always a string. Always a string. I could create a different component. And this is a common trade-off in component making. You can create a different component or you can extend an existing component. I think it does actually make sense here to call it a labeled number component, labeled number field. So I'll copy all of this. I'll make a new component, labeled number field. That way I don't have to worry about any cross pollution. If I make a change that's number specific, I don't have to worry about regression testing text. So I will simply say that you cannot use a number here. You cannot use a number here. And then here, this is not an interface any longer. We will assume it's number. Okay? So that field was called type. So let's look for wherever type was being used. And here we will change it to a number. Argument of type number is not assignable to a parameter of type string. So in this use field itself, this is the core issue. How do we convert from that string to a number? Well, I'm happy to let the name be a string, which it is. That's the field name. We can change all of these things to call it a labeled number field. Good. So all of the things are distinct. So really it's this parse bit. So I give you a value and then I parse a number out of it and it's mad about that. Why is it mad about that? The input value so here are the options for the things that we could do over there. Here's type. And I want type to be number. That didn't solve it. Okay, what about format? Interesting. Okay, so it seems like React Final Form itself wants it always to be a string internally. That's what it seems like. Which is okay, we can handle that. That just means on our onSubmit function, we will change it into a number at that time. What if I don't parse it at all? Let's see if this works. Years of experience, 11. Expected number, received string. Oh, now you expect a number and received a string. Yeah. Okay, that's actually the same error. All right, so I think we will stringify the value. I think that's what we'll do. We'll stringify the value and convert it to a number on submit. So in that case, we can go back to using the labeled text field after all. So let's try going back to the labeled text field. And we'll need to look at the schema here. This is the schema. So we'll need to decouple this schema, which I'm not really crazy about. Yeah, that's fine. So we'll call this the update settings form schema. So the form schema has a slightly different, it is slightly different than the API schema, and that's okay. We handle it in the onSubmit. I'll make a note of that. Form schema is parsed into TRPC schema in onSubmit. And so in this schema, this is the form schema. Now years of experience is a string. And it is a nullable string. I think I'd like it to be an option. Let's leave it as nullable. Oh, it can be nullable and optional. Let's do that. It's a nullable optional string. So now I think the UI issue will go away. Years of experience 11, cool. The question is, will it be a number when we go to submit it? Okay, so here is the years of experience, and that's here I want to say if it's there, and if it's not there, we'll use null. If it's there, it will be a number. And this isn't quite correct because the 0 case, years of experience, could be a 0. Let me double check that parse int of null comes out NaN, parse int of undefined comes out NaN, parse int of empty string comes out. Okay, good. So they're all NaN. So what I'll do here is I'll say parse. It's suggesting parse number. That's interesting. I don't think yeah, I want to use parse int, not parse number. So if parse int is NaN, in fact, I think there's an is NaN function, right? Yeah. So if it's not a number, then I want to use null. Otherwise, I want to use that number. And it's not allowing me to send undefined. That's okay. I can use that expression. And that's a little bit dirty. So it works, but it's a little bit, you see I have a repeated expression here. So let's extract this out. And I will just say years of experience is this. Okay, so here's the years of experience. And if it's not a number, I'll send null. Otherwise, I'll send years of experience. So that's cleaner, right? We could do the ternary eagerly, and it might be even cleaner. I guess it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Let's go ahead and do that. We'll do all the dirty work up front. We'll do all the dirty work up front. And here I'll use a maybe. So this will be maybe. Maybe years of experience. I don't know. I don't know if that is cleaner after all. But anyway, by the time we get down here, everything's already taken care of. What do you think, chat? Thanks for the follows. I'm starting to learn CS. What do you think is the best way to learn? Are you learning in university or are you trying to teach yourself? Cody CM, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Just joined like 6 months ago. What are you, or 6 minutes ago? What are you building? I'm building laterally.io. You can check out the bio. Sign up for free. Connect with hundreds of engineers on Discord. To Jeremy, who is learning CS, I would suggest you do that regardless. Whether you're going the traditional path or a non-traditional path, social networking is important in both cases, and it's a common gap. It's a lot of people that other people neglect. So make sure that you connect with real engineers. Your social networking, you're learning by doing, learning by building, learning in public. Those are going to be some key buzzwords for you. And what that helps you do with content creation as you learn, you're growing your social network and you're going to have a large network of relevant people before you ever go on the job search. So you need to think backwards about the job search. We're only studying CS for a CS role, right? I have an IT systems support internship interview tomorrow. Any advice or tips? My main advice is get enough rest. Get enough rest. Try to relax. Try to eat before your interview. Sleep. Hydrate, including electrolytes. Get yourself a body armor. Sounds silly, but that's actually my main tips. Don't forget to smile. Thank interviewers for correction. Use thanks over apology. If you make a mistake, if they call you out on it, instead of saying, oh, I'm so sorry, like I wouldn't have, I didn't have, don't do that. Say, oh, that's right, thank you so much. Thank them. When they go to communicate with themselves about how the interviewer went, you want them to remember someone who is grateful, coachable, smiles, positive. You want them to remember this kind of person, not someone who stumbled around and made a bunch of mistakes. So that's what I would do. That's what I would do. Okay, cool. Thanks, brother. You got it, man. Good luck. I hope you'll come back and drop a comment on any of my videos after and let me know how it went. Or send me a DM if you want to be more, private about it. Okay, what have we done here? We've got the handle submit updated. So let me stage all of this. And in this case, I won't need the number field. So I'm going to unstage that and potentially delete it if this works. All I want to do is verify that years of experience persists. So here I'll say 11. It says it updated. Let me refresh the page. And it persisted. So years of experience is working without a new labeled number field. So I'll delete that. And then the feature here is handle submit with new data. All right, so the form is submitting the new data, but these 3 fields, we need to test them out functionally. So let's make up some networking reasons and services and skills and stuff. Top skills, Python, TypeScript. I don't know. Generative AI. There you go. Top services. I only need like one. Let's do 1, 2, 3. How about that? Networking reasons. Casual chat. Services. Resume review. Practice. Interviews. Yeah. Coding round. Practice. Interview. Coaching. That's so stupid. I should probably not say that, but how would you phrase that, chat? Let me know. Coding round, practice, interview, coaching. Let's say technical interview prep and resume review. I think that's better, huh? Ooh, now we got the dreaded expected a string, received a number, dun dun dun. This was on reload. So when the field is initialized, there's a initialization problem. If I change it, it's gonna work now, I bet. Let's see. Yeah, that worked. Okay, but when how did it go down to 6? That's crazy. Yeah, something about how it's reloading. It's reloading with the wrong data type. And notice also these fields did not persist. So we need to fix this next. So what should I deal with first? The reloading issue or I'm going to deal with the reloading issue. Let's get one thing working at a time. It's when I blur. It's when I blur. Okay, so if I reload and then blur, expected string received number. So years of experience is initializing as a number, which makes sense. So it's coming in from the server as a number, and I need to cast it to string for the UI purposes, basically. So here are the initial settings. We're going to set state right here. Where is that data coming in from the server? All right, so here's the initial settings. Yeah. This is going to tell me that get settings is returning a number. Years of experience, it's returning number or null. And I want to say, do you have a number? If you don't, null is cool. But if you do, I want to string. And now it's mad because the server side type validation wants it to be a number. Okay, we'll revert this and I'll do the coercion on the client. That's more appropriate. That is more appropriate. Okay, so it comes in over here. Yeah, this is the UI type. The UI type, so it's the right type. Cool, I'll just say const raw settings. There's the raw settings. And then is this a Zod? My tab is fighting me. This is a proper type. This is not a Zod. So I could change it to Zod and parse it. Not really necessary. Not really necessary. I think I can just do this. Let's get the raw settings. Years of experience to string. So I need to cast it to undefined when appropriate, but avoid the 0 case. So I'll get raw years of experience. Could be a number or null. And here I can make it undefined. So now it's going to be a number or an empty string. And then here, I can say toString in either case. So Cursor is suggesting that I use the type of the getUserSetting schema. That's interesting. If I'm going to use the type of the getUserSetting schema, I might as well use the getUserSetting schema literal, because that's a parser. So if I'm going to use the getUserSettings literal, then I can parse it this way. And what's wrong with that? That seems to work just fine. I actually prefer that. Is this used anywhere else? So let me see if I can get rid of this. That'll be even cleaner, won't it? See if it works without it. I'm going to do some comments for now. Obviously, I'm not committing that, but if this works, I think the Zod approach is cleaner. We love Zod, eh? Try catch wrapping the component. No. Oh, did I? Let's see. This bit, yeah? Oh, this is in case of an API error. So the main API error is an unauthenticated error, so you cannot visit. Maybe I'll add a note here. Redirect unauthorized users to homepage. Does that make sense? That's what the purpose of that is. Sharp eyes, Lewis in the chat, sharp eyes. So what am I hoping now? Now I'm hoping when I go to settings that I can avoid the 11 blur issue. Ah, no, it still happened. Bummer. And why did it still happen? If I go to get user setting schema, here, it's still going to be numeric. That's the issue, yeah? Years of experience, yeah, it's still numeric. All right. Because that is what the server expects. So then here, I do still want a UI type. Does this have the subscription on it? It does. So I'll call this the user settings form values. Then I can say it is z.infer. It's just equivalent to form values then, eh? This already has subscription on it. Oh, because you're not going to update your subscription. Got it. I think I can do a one-line difference. So this will use the get user setting schema. This is the and operation, and profile years is a string now. I think we're finally rocking and rolling, team. What do I need the form values for now? I get an error over here. The handle submit. Yep, that's right. So I need both. I need both types. Good. All right, let's test this out, and then I can go clean up those comments if this is working. Still expected a string and received a number. This guy, what's up with this guy? Right, because I tried to use that parse, and that parse is not going to work. Here, instead of inferring the type this way, and this is the child component, so I'd rather have the types in the parent. So instead of inferring the type, I can create a different ZOD. So instead of z.infer, I'll use z.extend. So we'll extend it this way. It says it can't find the namespace, but it's right there. Did I extend it incorrectly? Extend. Semicolon expected. Oh, because I said export type. That's the problem. This is export const. Really, I can just move it over here. It'll make sense to go in that same schemas file. So now I'm parsing with the thing is a string now. Let's see what this does. Is this TypeScript? Yep, we're using TypeScript. Am I getting some sort of an error? Okay, so now that it's a Zod, I want to say user settings form values type or type user settings form type. I'll call it, let's be verbose. Better to be verbose and exact. So something in these three files is still amok. I guess it's not passing the Zod parse. So if I log the error, I think it's going to tell me that Zod didn't parse. Nope, I didn't see an error at all. Let me log out and log back in. Yeah, okay. Here's the error. Expected a string received a number. So I was thinking the parse would cast it for me, but it looks like that's not the case. Looks like that's not the case. So I need to do this manual coercion. That's okay. Kind of a bummer, but that's okay. Does this thing have a different, instead of parse, does it have like cast? Let's ask the composer. Does .parse have a variant that effectively will cast or coerce properties? I have profile years of experience, which is a number on the server, but should be a string on the client. I'm not even sure I want to autocast, because what if it turns null into the string literal null? Transform, interesting. So let's see where it's suggesting we do this. It's suggesting to add it to this schemas thing. Do I have two different schemas files? Yeah. Yeah, so this is the update settings form schema. It's the right thing in the wrong place. This is the right thing in the wrong place. So I'll copy this text, and then I will reject suggestions. The schema can add coerce field to your Zod object. Hey, I think it's transform, isn't it, Lewis? So here I have parse. And if I parse it now, well, it's too long. Let's see. So it looks like it's fine. Let's check the network tab, and I want it to see, let's see, do I expect it to come over the wire as a string at this point, I believe. Oh, it's going to be some ugly things like that. Okay, let me console.log it. I could use a debugger here, but I won't. I'll say raw years of experience. So one should be a number and one should be a string. That's what I expect. Yeah, here we go. Raw years of experience is a number, settings years of experience is a string. Good, we've got it done. We've got it done. All right, team, I'm going to end the stream there. We've been going almost 2 hours. Thanks so much for being here. Would Z coerce number or Z coerce string work? I think they could work.